The beauty and bounty of fall inspires our fall crafting. And in today's video, I have several fall crafts that I think you're going to love. I'm also going to show you this first craft, which is a Christmas craft, a sneak peek of many wonderful crafts to come. Here, I'm using an oyster shell. I'm also using this lovely parchment paper with the printed designs. I ordered this, and if you'd like the information, just ask me in the comments below. Here, I'm using some Mod Podge to carefully apply Mod Podge to the interior of that oyster shell. I'm using a little fine brush to go around that gold gilded edge. You don't want to get any of the Mod Podge, if possible, onto the gold because we want our design centered only in the interior portion of the shell. Here, I've cut out broadly the design, and I'm just laying it over the top of the oyster shell, using my fingers to gently press it down onto the Mod Podge so it adheres over the entire surface. Because this is vellum paper, I don't need to wait to let it dry before applying the top coat. If I had used a napkin, which I often do for these decoupage oyster shells, then you would want to wait. But this paper is a bit more durable. So here I'm just using the sponge brush, applying a fairly good amount of Mod Podge over the surface layer and using my finger once again to press it down. As you can see, the result is gorgeous. As the Mod Podge dries clear, I use this little fine pair of scissors, and turning the oyster over, I cut off all the excess that was overhanging. Then I reversed it, and I cut along that gilded edge. In my upcoming videos, I have many more like this to show you. Some of them will use pre-drilled shells and turn them into Christmas ornaments that you can display on your tree. And now we'll return to the glory of fall as we decorate in a marvelous way this upcycled jar. You can see I've used some painter's tape, and now we're going to use some Waverly chalk paint in the color Moss. I'm going to use this sponge brush and apply the green paint below that painter's tape line. That painter's tape will allow for a nice crisp edge. Use the chalk paint over the entire base, and I found that 2 coats worked really well to give me a nice, smooth, opaque coverage. This Waverly chalk paint goes on very smoothly over the glass, and I added some additional using the broader sponge brush just to get that final smooth coated layer. After letting it dry for about 2 hours, I removed the painter's tape, and you can see it reveals a nice, crisp, clean edge between the paint and the clear glass above. It comes off very cleanly and easily, and it's the easiest way that I know of to get a nice straight line. Now you can see this beautiful napkin. I found these at Marshall's in a package, and I just love the vibrancy of those fall colors. Most napkins are 2 or 3 ply, so you want to separate them, removing that extra layer and revealing only the design layer that you want to use. Next, cut out your image. The more closely you cut it out to Mod Podge it on the surface of the vase, the more beautiful your result will be. Here you can see I'm adding that image now. The wheelbarrow overloaded with colorful pumpkins is such a pretty fall design, and it coordinates really well with the moss color of the paint. I'm now using Mod Podge to adhere it to that surface. I'm going over partially the painted section as well as the clear glass. It adheres beautifully to both. Sometimes you just need to fold back your napkin, adding the Mod Podge, and then very, very delicately smoothing it back down. At this stage, the napkin is very delicate and will tear quite easily. Should that happen, you can always piece in a portion of the design that tore and re-Mod Podge that section and you'll never be able to see the difference. Here I'm adding some more little pumpkin stacks that I cut out. And on this side, I'm adding some additional pumpkins. You can go all the way around the jar and just add the designs as you choose. These napkins provide such lovely, colorful images. Here, I've decorated the upper rim with some of the Arteza gold paint. That forms simply the base because now I'm going to add some Dollar Tree flowers using hot glue to adhere them. I bought these on a stem for $1.25 and I simply removed them, and they provide enough to go all the way around the rim of this jar. This is really a stunning way to decorate an upcycled jar. It's so inexpensive and easy and fun, and you could use any nice shaped jar that you have from your kitchen and simply use these techniques, adding the paint, adding the Mod Podge designs, and really create something beautiful. To add another lovely dimension, I'm using some of the Arteza gold paint and a fine brush, and I'm highlighting certain areas. Here I have the wheat that I'm adding some gold to the stems. The Arteza is a wonderful paint, and I discovered by happy accident that when I dispensed some on some waxed paper and let it sit for a while, it became very thick. And that thickness resulted in a wonderful medium for being able to build up some texture and dimension against this flat image. That really added a lot of visual interest. And I had fun adding highlights to the apples and the wheat and the various pumpkins. You can see that even though it's really pretty as it is, adding those touches of gold really does embellish it in quite a lovely way. I'm just dabbing it almost like a paint by number, outlining some of the flowers and highlighting some of the details on the petals as well as along the pumpkins. This part was actually the most fun as I added those accents and embellished an otherwise beautiful design. And here, for the final touch, I added some fresh stems of wheat. I bought these at Michael's with a coupon, and I cut them to size, and I think they're just the perfect accent for this vase. It coordinates really well with the fall theme and the wheat design that I placed in the front side of the vase. This project will provide you with such wonderful creative opportunities. And because the container is glass, you can display fresh flowers as well. And now on to our next project, which I offered as a sneak peek from my previous video. Here, we're just adding hot glue into a silicone mold. You'll want to fill them just about 1/3 of an inch in the mold because you don't want them too thick. We're going to use them as embellishments. After they dry over an hour or so, the glue will harden again and become opaque, and you'll see the details are excellent. They come out of the silicone molds with ease, and sometimes you'll have little edges that need to be trimmed off. That's easy to do with a pair of scissors, but the resulting design is wonderful, and they can be painted as I did with some of the gold Arteza paint. I did several layers, and as I allowed the paint to thicken, it provided a beautiful opaque coverage for these designs. You can see here I'm just taking a small paintbrush and going over the surface as well as the side contours. I found that by letting the paint sit out for about a half hour, an hour, it actually thickened, and then it provided a much thicker coat to give me better coverage, and I was able to get a beautiful opaque coverage on each of them. Now I'm using them to embellish a pumpkin stack I made. This is simply a fabric wrapped Dollar Tree carvable pumpkin on the bottom, and on top I hot glued one of the Dollar Tree ceramic pumpkins. And now I'm just using the maple leaf that I've got dried and painted, and I'm going to attach that to the top of the ceramic pumpkin. A little bit of hot glue on the back side attaches very easily to almost any surface. Here you can see I'm just going to add it to the top of that ceramic pumpkin, and it provides just a nice accent of gold. Here you can see what I was saying, that having left out a dollop of the Arteza Gold to sit out for about an hour, you can see how much more thick the paint is and how I'm able to get a really nice, rich color on top of that leaf. You can see how easy it was to make these embellishments just using hot glue and a silicone mold, which you can find usually pretty much anywhere in the baking section of Michael's or off of Amazon, and you can get any designs. I have some other really fun designs. Here, I'm going to show you one more opportunity to use those embellishments as I use some Mod Podge on a Dollar Tree plate, as well as a piece of Dollar Tree brightly designed pumpkin fabric. I've just applied the Mod Podge to the back of the plate, and now I am adding the fabric to the back side with the design upside down, as you can see. That way it will show through from the front. And I'm just smoothing the fabric over the back of the plate really nice and tightly so there's no air bubbles or wrinkles. Then I'm going to use another application of Mod Podge over this back side. That will provide a nice finished surface. I'm using a sponge brush and some of the regular Mod Podge matte and just going over it using a fairly liberal amount of Mod Podge over the back, smoothing it around so it's nice and even. The next day I was able to turn it over, and it's such a beautiful plate that was made for $2.50, and I still have some of the fabric left over. It performs a nice base for some pretty colorful leaves, for the ceramic pumpkin that I've embellished with one of the maple leaves we made using the hot glue. It's also a pretty foundation for a lighted candle that I also embellished using one of the decorative hot glue images. This time I used the pumpkin. I hope you've enjoyed this video. For those of you who are new, my name is Lisa. Please do consider subscribing. I look forward to having you join us again soon as we dive into some beautiful Christmas crafting. Take care. God bless.